Brandon's heart was pretty much torn apart this weekend. Um, both his favorite player was playing against his favorite team. Of course, that being Tom Brady going back to New England for the first time since he left the Patriots. Um, and that game was an absolute thriller. It started off a little low scoring. It was only 7-6 at the half. Um, but the second half was pretty fucking awesome. It seemed like Brady and the rookie Mac Jones were trading punches, going back and forth all the way until the end of the game. And as you would expect, the Hall of Famer Tom Brady came out with the victory. But Mac Jones had himself quite a good game. So Brandon, I'm coming to you here. How would you grade Mac Jones's performance in this game, especially when you compare it to Tom Brady's performance?
I loved Mac Jones' performance. First off, this was a tough game to watch, but I think I shared the same sentiment as most Patriots fans, which was thank you for 20 years of service, but you're just an opponent tonight. I was texting you towards the end of it, saying that it's pretty clear I'm a Patriots fan. As soon as the game started, I was just more excited that Mac Jones was on fire. And you're right, it was a bit of a slow start. The casuals of the NFL, like NFL casual fans, came out of the woodwork to talk about how boring and shitty the game was. I'd like to submit a PSA that not every football game should be played like Madden. Sometimes there's actual strategy, and it's not just Hail Marys 24/7 with points on the board galore. What you saw was the greatest coach versus the greatest quarterback, and just a brain game. It was a game of chess. It wasn't going to be a high scoring game like we're going to have this weekend during prime time. It was definitely more of a chess match, and it was fantastic. Um, Mac Jones was sensational with 77% completion, two TDs. He did throw an interception, which potentially cost them that win. But on the whole, I mean, I can't be frustrated with a performance like that from a rookie in his fourth game thrown in against the goat. Um, on paper, he outplayed Tom Brady, and pending fourth down that they should have gone for. Instead of kicking it so far in the rain, they definitely should have gone for it on fourth down. Put trust in your quarterback. I know he's young, but he's one of the most accurate guys we've seen. And maybe we get a closer field goal, wind down the clock a bit. I thought we were close enough. We could have won that game. Um, I was just overall happy with the performance. As a Patriots fan, you got to be excited about a performance like that, especially from a rookie quarterback. From the comparing to the rest of the rookie quarterbacks we've seen so far.
Jen, how did you feel about Mac Jones this week?
I mean, he did put on a good performance, but against fifth and sixth string cornerbacks, they picked up Richard Sherman 4 days before the game, and he was starting, against one of their top receivers in New England. I don't. I mean, don't get me wrong. Mac Jones played a really good game, but also at the same time, I could have been throwing those balls to those third or fourth or even fifth or sixth string cornerbacks and completed checkdowns. So it's definitely going to be tough for them coming up. When it comes to he's actually going to meet up with the boys. I believe it's either this week or next week, um, and let him play against some of the best corners that's out there. I mean, it just seems like he hasn't had you know a lot of he hasn't had a lot of success when it comes to really good defensive players that's not within the box. So, I think he's definitely gonna get shook, and he might slide for a bit. And yeah, overall, I say 1 out of 10. I give him like a 5.
Okay.
A five for that performance?
It's really funny when you actually look at the games. It seems like the rain was pouring harder when Tom was on the field than Mac was on the field.
We must
So
have been watching a different game.
no, we're
I don't know
watching.
if you noticed, but the rain had stopped for Tom Brady's field goal drive in the fourth quarter. And then as soon as that kickoff was caught by the Patriots, it started to pour harder than it ever did. So not only did this man have to go up and potentially do a game-winning drive, he had the rain where Tom Brady didn't. I think I think that could have been a really good. I guess if it wasn't raining, it could have been a really propelling win to give him a lot of confidence to go toe to toe with Tom Brady and actually get that game winning field goal. This is another situation, just like we were talking about in week one, where Mac Jones didn't cost them the game. Someone else did. I mean, could he have converted on third down? Maybe. But I think he should. I think you should have stuck with your quarterback on fourth down, gone for it, got him in closer range because we've got another situation where a non-quarterback is costing them the game.
Maybe you guys should have spent some more money on a better kicker.
Did. I mean, I'd definitely give Mac Jones more than the 5 for his performance. Sorry, not yesterday. That was 2 days ago now. He looked pretty amazing. But I guess switching to the other side of the field, how would you grade Tom Brady's performance in that game?
A one. I mean, no TD passes. Can't handle the ball. I mean, it just seems like the rain definitely had an effect on him, but it seemed like he didn't have motivation to win there. It just seems like he was off. Yeah, I know that. I get that it's a super emotional game and everything. But it's not the same Tom Brady that we have seen in the past. It's almost like he saw a ghost like Sam Darnold did, but he was seeing multiple ghosts at the same time in that game, and he just, you know, incomplete passes when it's supposed to, and then obviously, that huge play with Antonio Brown down the field, and then they get a really bad penalty. It just seems like he was out of it, and plus he didn't have Gronk, which resulted in a bunch of field goals, and he didn't score any touchdowns, and I had him in my fantasy, so I officially am benching him for David Carr next week.
I actually agree with you. Tom Brady didn't have a great game. I don't know if I'd give him a one. I wouldn't. There was worse performances. If we were rating on a scale of performances, there was definitely worse.
I mean, but for Tom Brady though, like how would you rate this performance for Tom Brady?
I'd probably put it at a 4 or a 5. I wouldn't put it at a 1, but it wasn't great by Tom Brady standards. It seemed for a guy that went to 10 Super Bowls, it seemed like the moment got to him. Which is something we really don't see from him that often. I think he was just a little bit hung up on the emotion leading up to this week, even though everybody in Tampa Bay played it off. I don't think that was the case. And Mac Jones just had the lucky feeling he just wasn't part of it. So he was just irrelevant. He was sort of a third party. He wasn't really involved in the whole thing. So it wasn't as big of a deal for him as it was for Tom Brady. And so I think it wasn't because it wasn't as emotional for him. He was just able to execute the game plan.